Redditors who have dated very attractive people but weren't that smart. What was the final straw? Story 1. Gorgeous blonde, but really, really dumb. We met at work, and my friend was her friend's brother, so we started talking a bit. She knew her boyfriend was cheating on her, and so she cheated on him with me. I felt kinda bad, but her boyfriend was such an douchebag. Then they broke up and we started going out. And then a few months later she dumped me to run away to North Dakota with him. I wasn't really mad. They were both people and deserved each other. Story 2. This girl was definitely out of my league looks-wise, but she was proud of being stupid, petty about everything and annoying. But whatever. I was in my early 20s, and for whatever reasons he liked me, so I went with it. Things seemed to be going fine, when one day she asked me why I always drink so much. I thought about it and realized that I literally drank every day I saw her, and never drank on the days I knew I wouldn't. I couldn't stand being around this girl unless I was drunk. Decided wasn't worth that kind of lifestyle and broke it off the next time I saw her. Wanted to actually be sober before I did it. Story 3. When she found out I was Jewish, she said, "I thought all of you got holocausted." Story 4. She cheated on me. Plain and simple. But to add salt to the wound, the guy she cheated on me with had the same name as myself. Maybe she was really dumb and just got confused. He doesn't look like him, but it's his name. Story 5. It was when she used an apostrophe to make a plural. Wrong on so many levels. Story 6. Was listening to 9 Inch Nails. She called it stupid. Switched over to Wu-Tang. Said it was even stupider. Look, dig what you dig, but sometimes you just know things aren't going to work out. So did you dump her when you got where you were going, or just throw her out of the car when she slided Wu-Tang? Story 7. I was in Los Angeles, she was in San Francisco, and wanted to know what time it was in LA. Maybe she was just really jet-lagged. Story 8. His job was laying people off left and right. So what does he do? He buys a car on payments. He lost his job the next week and had zero savings. I just couldn't handle the stupid anymore. Edit. To everyone saying he needed the car to get to work, no, he didn't. He had a reliable way of getting to work. He didn't even have his driver's license until after buying the car. He bought a car out of his price range at any rate. He had a history of buying things on credit and already had $3,000 worth of electronics bought on credit at the time. None of it paid off. A car was a fun purchase when he had zero savings and had a high chance of getting laid off. So stupid decision. Story 9. She was a model but made her decisions based on her psychic's advice. Story 10. He was a total hottie, with wealthy parents who took us on a nice vacation one time and were super sweet people. It was great. My first orgasm was had, which is a big deal for a college-age girl just getting past the initial awkward teenage fumbling phase. But he was stuck in the grade school mindset that being dumb was cool. I said something along the lines of making a C on my first calculus exam, and he bragged about failing an entire college pre-algebra class. I just kinda ghosted him after that, because C is for calculus and B's for bye-bye. Story 11. That it was okay to not use a because it wasn't God's plan for me to have a baby right now. Got right the hell out of that. Maybe you could have parted your white C, you never know. Story 12. She thought Sir Mix-a-Lot had ripped off Nicki Minaj. She was only 1 year younger than me, but she, had no knowledge of pop culture pre-2001. She'd never seen Lion King, Hercules, basically the majority of the classic Disney movies. Basically, she made me feel old, despite the fact I was only 20 at the time. So then we're out in a bar, and they start playing I Like Big Butts, and she comments, "Oh my god, this remix of Anaconda's bang." So I told her it was the original. She didn't believe me, and as I sat there stunned, I realized, nah, this ain't worth the effort. Dumped her the next day. Magnificent ass, though. Story 13. He thought women's breasts were always filled with milk, and he believed bazillion was an actual number. Story 14. Second date. I got to meet his not-so-attractive, not-so-smart family. It was a super awkward 2 hours at the Olive Garden. Must be unfair to judge someone by the family, but also, are you getting introduced to them so early? Story 15. I married her. In United States military history, more citations for the Medal of Honor have been awarded for falling on grenades to save comrades than any other single act. I salute you, you poor bastard. Story 16. The day we got into a fight on whether or not rabbits lay eggs. They don't lay eggs, Katie. Easter is a lie. Go read a book. Story 17. She was gorgeous and a few years older than me. The second day of texting, she had texted me wanting to go out dancing. I replied, "Okay, but just to let you know, I'm not that good. I have 2 left feet." She stopped replying to me. I thought to myself, No. She didn't actually think, so I replied about 3 hours later saying, just to let you know I don't actually have 2 left feet, it's an expression. Her immediate reply back was, oh, thank God. It was at that point I knew I couldn't ever. She couldn't handle that. You wouldn't be right by your side. Story 18. She thought that Canada was in the middle of the United States, right next to Colorado. I wonder if she heard something about Wyoming being Colorado's Canada, and it stuck with her. Story 19. She swore up and down that I was the father of her baby. That was 5 months old when we met. In the case of 5-month-old Beetlejuice, you are not the father. Story 20. Watching Star Wars when a scene with a hologram comes up. If they can do that kind of thing for a movie, why can't they do it in real life? Jesus tap dancing Christ. Story 21. She thought the hot, unbearable weather was caused by wildfires in Florida. We live in California. The question was like, if we have a power outage, will my car turn on? Visiting Japan? Do they have sushi restaurants there? Facepalm. Story 22. She told me to smell her hair one time and proudly announced, it has fruit icus in it. What? I replied, like people do. Fruit icus. It's the main ingredient. It's by Garnier. It comes in a green bottle. It was fructus. Garnier, fructus. She's still banging though, just dumb. I thought Fruiticus was Spartacus's gay friend. Story 23. Being bored and having to fill up time with bed is only good for so long, then it just becomes hollow, which sounds good, but unfortunately starts to grate. And just general embarrassment when I took her out with my friends and wanting to stab myself in the face when out with hers. Story 24. She was a yoga instructor who was constantly getting attention from other guys. Constantly. I knew her through a mutual friend, and I suppose she found the fact that I didn't chase her appealing. Regardless, she initiated with me. We dated for a bit. Physically, we were very compatible. However, she was constantly demanding attention from me, and expected me to cater to her every whim while we were out, which I would to a degree, but never to her satisfaction. Because of her attractiveness level, her previous boyfriends would do anything for her at the drop of a hat. That's just not really my style. I wasn't ever disrespectful of her or treated her poorly. I just wasn't a relationship gopher. One night, at a friend's birthday, even downtown, she kept telling me about how many guys were hitting on her at the location we were at. She became irritated that I wasn't up in arms about the whole ordeal and that I should show more concern about how much attention she was getting. I responded with, should I worry about you going home with one of them? She replied, if you don't start acting like you do care, then maybe I will. My final response was, go for it. It may have been a little callous on my end, but I was really done dealing with that kind of scenario. Story 25. His friends took me aside and told me that he has a history of hitting his ex-girlfriends. One of the guys actually looked scared that they were telling me. Bye, Johnny. I noped the heck out of there. Hey guys, just a quick little side note. If you like the content and love listening to the stories, please press the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you'll get notified whenever I upload. Thanks, and now back to the stories. Story 26. My old friend was dating a really hot girl when one day she pulled out chocolate milk and a strainer. With said strainer, she tried to turn chocolate milk into regular milk. The next day, he started questioning his choices. I imagined her pulling the stuff out of her purse in public and doing this. Story 27. I am actually marrying him in 13 days. I don't think he is dumb. He is very good looking, though. But some of the things that he says come off as dumb. He said something as I was saying it, and when I told him I was just thinking the exact same thing, he said, I have tilapia. After a few minutes of having him repeat what he just said, he finally said, I can read your mind. He meant telepathy. He thinks the curb on the streets are called curves. He thinks raccoons are called ratcoons. He says, the bottom line is, there are so many things, but I love them. He makes me laugh. I just thought of another one. We were playing Family Feud online, and the question was something about naming a vegetable, and he said fruits. We were playing with our daughter's dinosaur train toys, and he thought they were called carnivores because they eat plants' crops. And I thought humor came with intelligence. Story 28. I had a beautiful girlfriend once that a lot of people would think is dumb. Every time she said something ridiculous, I would just agree with her and carry it further as if we were both just joking in the same way. She would laugh and always had a great smile with big, beautiful eyes. Whenever she got mad at me for something, I would just look at her and say, I didn't say that to make you upset. Why would I do that on purpose? I'm always on your side. And she'd believe me. In fact, it's the truth. But so many people just can't get past the little peeves and annoyances. For her, it was as simple as explaining that her boyfriend was always on her side. For my part, whenever I started to get upset with her, I'd always internally compare what I was upset about to not having her, and she'd always win. In the end, she said she wanted to be free. No reason given. As her fiend, I'd always considered love as something you give, not get. So where I could have held on, I just let her go. You can't own people anyway, and I was only ever her friend. It's been years, and I'm still the only person she's ever had a long-term relationship with. And she's still the only person I've ever loved that much. Story 29. He kept pointing out I was smarter and had more degrees, and would introduce his friends as his kind of people. It was frustrating because I never brought up my academic background around him, and doesn't define me. Story 30. She thought the word town had 3 syllables. We were at Chipotle with friends, and out of the blue she exclaims, "Wow, I just realized the word town has 3 syllables. Tau wunesses," while slowly clapping like you learned to do in elementary school. And I just sat here like an idiot trying to make town into 3 syllables. Story 31. Dated a solid 9.5 for about 3 years. The was okay, because she was so attractive she never had to be good at anything. It's also funny how the most attractive people are the most insecure. I constantly had to tell her, she straight asked, how pretty skinny she was. She had anxiety problems as well. She was sweet, but kind of a dim bulb. I think what finally put me over the edge was a time when we were playing Skate Gories, a word game, with some friends. I was doing particularly well, and she was legitimately mad at me for it. I realized then that she was so wrapped up in herself that there would never be enough room for both of use. I broke up with her a couple weeks later. I would have done it that night, but I wanted to see her a few more times cause, come on, 9.5 is 9.5. Story 32, I dated a guy for a month near the end of some time abroad who was just idiotic. And one of those guys who thinks that he's really intellectual, but just nonsense spouts out of his mouth. He one time tried to convince me that we actually do use just 10% of our brains and think of what we could achieve if we used all of it. But the final straw, the day I broke up with him, I went to his place, and the very first thing he said to me was, "Do you believe in witches?" I was like, "No," and he went on to say that a witch, hired by a rival DJ, that was his profession, had put a curse on him. Jesus, I couldn't handle that level of crazy. Then after we broke up, he decided that we hadn't broken up and was sending me lovey messages over Facebook until I said to him, "You know we broke up, right?" And he said, "I don't want to talk to you anymore." That was the last I've heard from him. Not really a stupid thing, but more crazy. We slept together once, and then he started telling everyone I was his girlfriend. I would have corrected him, but I was like, "I'm leaving in a month anyway. It'll sort itself out." Story 33. There was no specific thing she did that I can remember where I realized I couldn't do it anymore. It's been a while, but basically I had to explain everything I said. She just didn't get stuff. And she never understood any jokes, no matter how simple, and it just got to me. I want to be able to have at least a semi-normal conversation with someone I'm dating, or at least that they follow what I'm saying. Suffices to say that one ended pretty quickly. Story 34. She seemed to legitimately believe that homosexuality is a disease you can cure or induce by certain behavior. She said a bunch of other stupid things too, but I didn't really pay too much attention as the was way too good. But trust me, if all of your friends tell you she's dumb as a doorknob, there's probably some truth in it. Story 35. He would quote Will and Grace constantly. When joking around, this wasn't so bad. But he would answer serious questions with quotes from Karen, as if she was some philosopher to be taken seriously. At first that was funny, but it crossed the line when he would do that for my parents. Story 36. I was used to my long-ago ex not trying very hard at life because she didn't have to. She was very good-looking and would often get a pass because of it. I considered her generally vapid behaviors the price of admission. The final straw was having to explain the plot of Caddyshack to her while watching it in the theater. She kept asking the most fatuous questions regarding the plot and characters. On the ride home from the theater, I tried in vain to engage her in conversation about politics, current events, anything besides gossip, and how mean or ugly others were. Story 37. I married him. I don't care that he is dumb, he's kind and funny, and always there for me. But if you want a story, he thought that the textured plates that are installed where the sidewalk meets an intersection to help blind people know where to stop are pressure plates, and that you had to stand on them to activate the crosswalk sign. Story 38. Met her at the mall. She asked about a store, and we went to the directory. She asked what the yellow star was. I said that's our current position. Looking perplexed, she uttered this phrase that still resonates in my mind. How do they know? There was no second date. Story 39. I'm at her place having a beer with her dad while she's upstairs getting ready for our night out. She comes down, and this is the conversation. Mom, I spilled nail polish on the carpet. I looked up how to clean it on the computer, but Lowe's said they don't carry elbow grease. Her dad and I nearly spit out our drinks, but I let it slide. She's easily a 10, and I might get laid. Fast forward a few hours, and we're taking a walk after dinner, and we get talking about movies. She looks at me, dead serious. I watched Shrek the other day, and no one will tell me the truth. Me? The truth about what? Ogress are real right. Broke up 1 week later. Sucks because her dad was awesome. Story 40. In university, I dated an absolutely gorgeous 6'1" suit model. Yes, that was his modeling niche. For about 30 seconds. My friends used to call him Yawn. He wanted to be Spider-Man. We were 24. The expression, thick as a sack of hammers, was minted solely for him. I think I kept him around for longer than I should have because I was astounded at how he got treated in public. Women, and men, would fawn over him, give him freebies and best tables, jumping lines into clubs. Beauty really does open doors. The was great, but having literally nothing to say to him afterwards, got super old. I dumped him for a short, stocky and not conventionally good-looking philosophy major. My brain cells thanked me. Story 41. The only incredibly attractive person I've ever dated brought new meaning to the term stupid hot. It's not just that she was dumb, she never had to do much for herself. Her dad owned a bunch of restaurants and was stupid rich, so she never really had to learn about the world. She asked me to look at her paycheck from her first real job. Her dad paid her an allowance to sit in his restaurants, and was confused by the fact that her contract said she would be paid $320 weekly, and a lot of her money goes to Medicare and Social Security. When I got hit by a car, she didn't understand what internal bleeding was. She never cashed any of her paychecks until she was paying for her wedding. 3 years after we broke up, and she left that job, and she didn't understand why they couldn't just reissue the checks. She's now a school nurse in Texas. Awesome, and her dad makes some bomb Tex-Mex. Story 42. On a plane, we're arguing about the sizes of houses. One house we went to was so clearly much larger than another house, so I brought up the measurement of square footage to determine the truth, and he continues to argue. Then he says, wait, I think we need to define square feet. Square feet is feet squared. Wow, I couldn't speak to him for the rest of the flight. We're still together because he's beautiful. But he often comes up with gems like this one. Story 43. We had a conversation about mythical creatures, not sure why, and she brought up fairies. How can you say they're not real when you've never seen one? They are probably just hiding. I looked at her and laughed, but she stayed stoic. Apparently, she wasn't joking. She fully believed in them, and I just kept thinking to myself, not worth it. I ghosted her a couple days after it. Story 44. 1. After watching Catching Fire. Her. What? That ending sucked. Me. Well, there's a third book, so... Her. Oh, these are books? 2. She constantly said she doesn't read, as if it's a punishment of some sort. Tried to get her to put a local address in my GPS as I was driving, and she could not follow basic instruction. Didn't know what town it was, even though it was a mile out from our location. 4. No job and was not enrolled in higher education or a trade. Just stagnant in life. 5. Planning anything before 2 p.m. was a huge problem for her, as she did not get out of bed until then. 6. One night she broke down because she thought her family thought she was incredibly lazy. Younger brother has 2 jobs, and she has had one for 3 months tops. So I grabbed her laptop and helped her apply for jobs. Within 2 minutes of trying to apply, I found out she only has one physical copy of a resume that her mother keeps in a file cabinet. Afterwards, she said, I'll do it tomorrow. Asked about it 2 weeks later to find out she did nothing. 7. Deal breaker was when I landed an entry-level job in my career field, but it was further from home. I had less time to spend with her, and she was free 7 days a week. She made such a huge deal about it that I broke up with her on the spot. Ain't nobody got time for that. Story 45. Didn't date them, but I know someone who did. Basically, she spelled the word ice as I-S-E. When we confronted her about it, she said, well, it's mathematically proven that it's faster to draw a squiggle than a curve. I felt my brain throw up when I heard that. This was all very recent, too. As in yesterday. I work with this woman. She has a kid also, which scares me even more. Story 46. The girl from Detroit thought trains, locomotives, were extinct, the same way dinosaurs are extinct. The exchange took place while driving home from dinner and went something like her asking me, "Why are you stopping?" "What are those things?" I replied. "There's a train coming?" She immediately responded, "No way! Trains are extinct." I didn't even bother explaining why someone from Detroit should know trains are all over the place or explaining what the word extinct means. Story 47. My ex wouldn't eat mushrooms because fungus grows in poop. Putting the slight inaccuracy of that aside, I tried to explain that most crops grow in poop because that's what fertilizer is made of. She was having none of it. I'm not proud of how much longer that relationship lasted. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this next video. The YouTube algorithm really thinks you like it.